very small room of Winterclash 2020. You're probably wondering who this random bald guy on the stage talking to you is. It's not Ricardo Lino, although I do a very good impression of Ricardo Lino that I will happily do on command. Hola, YouTube. Fuck. Hope Ricardo's not here and he beats me up. Oh, I'll see him later. So everyone likes to talk shit online about the industry and think that they know what's going on with companies and where we're heading, whether we're doing well or not. But the fact is, no one knows better how we're doing in the industry than shop owners, because they are in the unique position where they deal with the consumer and they deal with the companies. So they have the best idea of what sells, what doesn't, trends, when we go through slumps, when we go through highs, how many skates manufacturers produce. So I thought it would be best to get the people who are on the front line and dealing with this thing, giving you an informed, educated idea, rather than listening to people like me who talk shit online and think they know what's going on when they may not necessarily. So before we get into it, we're going to introduce the panelists. From Head and Skate, we've got Marek Regan.
Hello, hi.
I think we all know Head and Skate by now. Green is better. They've got an incredible team. They've toured everywhere. And they're a staple of the European scene. Next up, Jake Healy from Loco Skates. Jake has just newly become a father for the first time. I think that's worthy of an extra round of applause. One of the best teams in rollerblading. They've Leon Humphreys, they've had Chaz Sands, Joe Atkinson, Elliot Stevens, Ollie Short, Richie Eisler. Like, if they're an icon and they're from the UK, even if they're not from the UK, Jake has probably sponsored them. In addition to that, they've released skates with Valo, products with Undercover, numerous tours, hosted events, done it all. In the middle, all the way from Intuition Land in Bakersfield, California, we have Matt Mickey.
Howdy.
Again, Matt's had one of the most iconic teams in blading history. Jeff Stockwell, Richard Johnson, Josh Petty, like Brandon Campbell, and released incredible videos like Hype. We've also had loads of events. Even a fire burning the place to the ground couldn't stop Matt from continuing on. Despite all of his achievements, I will never, ever be able to see Matt's face without remembering him dressed in a clown suit in Bang, and his infamous line where he says, for
Joseph's son's sake, you're doing it for God, damn it.
Damn it. There we go. That was like we rehearsed that. Oh my, oh. Last but not least, Evo Vector, all the way from Let me finish sentences. Probably you've got the newest shop, essentially, out of all these guys. But, again, done massive work here. Got an incredible team of homegrown talent. He also hosts many events. One was this week outside the shop. And loads of get-togethers, I guess you would call them, gatherings. And you also do inline lessons as well, is that right? Yep. So, as the four guys at the front line of the sport, the question you probably all want to know is, as an industry, how are we doing? Take it away.
Okay. Hello. How Head on Skate going, right?
Or just as your
For me.
interpretation of how we're doing in terms of sales, or in terms of sales in comparison to previous years.
Depends on which years you are asking, because like since last 5 years, I think everything is growing up for us for Head on Skate. We slowly grow up. We sell more and more skates, more and more wheels and frames and bearings, which is good. But as I said before, we had we were a little bit on the top, then we go down, and since last 5 years,
There we go.
I think we are going on a good direction. So if you ask me how Head on Skate is going, I think I feel it that I think we are okay. We are going in good direction. We sell more skates. More people are involved in skating, especially in blading. We have a lot of inline schools in Poland. We work a lot with young kids in Poland, which helps a lot because we sell more and more junior skates, which is I think is the future for blading, because if we see more kids on the skate park, it's more useful for future. And yeah, answering to your question, I feel we are okay. We're going in a good direction.
Okay, anyone else want to give their respective opinion? Because obviously, based in Poland, based in the UK, based in the US, I imagine you guys would have different relative experiences.
Yeah, it's a subjective question. We have, in the UK, definitely a older blader boom.
Oh, if
Let's
Facebook
coin
is
that,
anything to go by, we
an
have a
older
lot of
blader
older bladers.
Boom, yeah. A lot of people in their 30s coming back who usually took about a 10-year hiatus, and that's where the industry is strongest for us at the moment, which is kind of good and kind of worrying at the same time because, well, hopefully those guys have kids, and in 5 years those kids become rollerblading.
You mean as opposed to a bunch of middle-aged, decrepit guys at the skate park who our bodies aren't in their prime?
Yeah.
Like ourselves.
Well, that's fine as well. It's just I would be a little scared that these 35-year-olds in 5 years will be 40 and then maybe they might go off of it again. I don't know. But it would be cool if their kids then came into it.
It's interesting that you say that because that actually brings us to my next question. So many rollerbladers have come back after taking a hiatus because of jobs or kids or whatever. And they've come back into the sport and there's all these Facebook groups everywhere, but does that actually translate into more sales, or are they just using their old equipment? Like, how much equipment can older skaters who only get to go out once or twice a month actually go through and purchase? Or do they have more disposable income and as a result they're able to make more purchases? Like, what way does it go?
Yeah, I think there's a couple different questions. So to answer the first one, the forecast from Intuition Land, aka Southern California, which is like the physically closest skate shop to the global nucleus of skating, Southern California, numbers are up. We're about to hit 20 years on April Fool's Day. So if it all folds, it was a joke anyways, but we're about to hit 20 years. And when I say sales are up, I mean across the board. Beginner kid skates, fitness skates, tri-skates, girls that are just hitting high-end beach bike trails, including aggressive. So the full spectrum. Numbers are up and it's awesome. And to answer the second question, with the older blader boom, in California, it's more considered like quote unquote back to blading. And a lot of the dudes are in their 30s. They do have disposable income. They make their own money. They have been re-exposed to rollerblading through either a social media group or an online video. And that triggers them, in addition to them having kids of age where they want to go to the roller rink for their first time, or they found pictures or edits of their dad skating and said, why don't you skate anymore? Which circles back to the generational age. Rollerblading is old enough as an industry now to where we're seeing kids of the age who want to skate. And so dads are getting back into it to bring their sons and daughters along. So yes, it does help. It is sustainable so long as we recognize that as shops and as an industry, we have to continue to find ways to make rollerblading appealing to families and accessible to kids. And as long as we can hit that as part of us having fun and taking care of what we love to do, even if it is only a couple sessions a month for the older guys, as long as they find the time to get together once every 2 weeks, it's still meaningful to them. They've got the money, they're still gonna spend it. And as long as it's something that they can do with their kids that's family friendly, the sky's the limit. And then beyond that. So yeah, only positive vibes and great news from Intuition Land. Evo, what do you got?
Thanks, Mike. Well, you took all my sales. Now I know where it's going.
It's going to go from a panel into just these guys beefing about territories and who should be allowed to sell to where.
Yeah. Well, I think we're all like are you exporting?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Video, like right
no,
now,
exporting
on my timeline?
your sales to other countries. Okay.
If they need 'em.
Yeah. Well, sales are up for the last 5 years, like about like 15 to 20% each year. So that's good. But the same as Mirek said, like before that, we had like it was higher, and then like suddenly it dropped. I was like, what happened? And then now it's like we just had our like best year ever by a long shot. So that's really good. I'm happy about that. So that's the state of the sport. I also kind of like resent anybody complaining about the state of the sport, because I think that if you want to like inspire people to go skate, which I would say that is our job, to inspire people to skate, it's not like a really nice message if like the whole theme of this event is like, what does it mean to be in kind of like, the message is what does it mean, right, of this event, and then what does it mean ... What does it mean, kind of like fill in the blanks, to be in a like in a sport that's like going down. That's like kind of like, if you read between the lines and everything that is posted about this event, it's really negative about the state of the sport. While this is not what I experience or these guys experience, and also.
And just to like clarify, in what way do you interpret it as being negative, like, and how it's been documented?
Well, you could just like be content with the situation, or you could always like keep comparing the state of the sport to either the state of skateboarding, and you'll always lose, or you can keep comparing it to the state of inline skating in the 90s, and you'll always lose as well. We'll never be as big as skateboarding. We'll never be as big as we were in the 90s, but we're fine now. And that should be kind of like the way that we look at the sport. We're fine. There's like loads of sport that are like just as big as in numbers as we are right now, but their theme of their events is not what does it mean to be smaller than skateboarding.
I think to take that as a negative is very much open to interpretation. But all right, okay, I'll see where you're going with that. When you say we'll never be as big as skateboarding and we'll never be as big as rollerblading as in the 90s, I agree with you. I think that's perfectly fine, because although rollerblading will never be as big as it was in the 90s, that was an unrealistic peak. It was very short-lived, and it was very erratic.
Exactly.
And as a culture, we weren't prepared for it. We didn't know how to handle it, whereas now we've built these foundations.
Yeah.
And when you mention skateboarding is bigger than us, but it faces the exact same problems that rollerblading faces. 90% of athletes don't get paid.
All right.
The guys making the videos, the guys out on the streets, they don't make any money. The top 10%, the guys that are winning the competitions and have the deals with Nike, they are the ones getting the money. Everyone else is working other jobs.
Exactly.
I wouldn't say skateboarding is actually that. I'd say skateboarding is just a bigger version of our diagram. I wouldn't actually say it was more successful.
Yeah, and same as if you look at the Olympics, like you could be like an Olympic athlete training for like a marathon or like a sprint or whatever, or maybe even like win medals, and you're like a regular school teacher. But these people don't go then on stage whining about how it was better in the 90s or how soccer is a better paying sport. So they're just like happy being there on the stage.
Well, then let's avoid that by not whining about how things were in the 90s.
I'm not. I'm just saying that like to answer your question, like what's the current state of inline skating? That's your question. I'm saying we're fine. That's my answer. We're fine.
Yeah, I think it's just to give people an informed decision so that they don't just see things that happen on message boards or on social media and come to the wrong conclusion.
Just to point out that Ivo said he had his best year ever, and I saw Matt nodding as well, and we just had our best year ever too. So
as in since the start of the shop?
Turnover. Since the start of the shop, yeah. Since day zero.
Nice.
Which is interesting. I don't know what that speaks for. So, but make your own mind up.
So you're all saying that things are going well. On the
I mean, it could be because there's no other shops left.
You've killed them all off. You've survived.
It's also because with each year that you work hard and you get better, and you're just trying to be better, and we're all still hungry to do it really well. And none of us have taken our finger off the pulse at all. But so that could be the reason. But I mean, let's just take that for a minute. That the best year ever for maybe I don't want to get into numbers, but yeah, how good is that?
I think what's important to consider also is that we're all inside of rollerblading, inline skating, aggressive inline skating, whatever you want to call it. But now that we're having big years on the retail front, it's not an accident. You can't force people to come in and buy skates. So there's avenues outside of the industry that are giving a look into rollerblading again, like they haven't since the 90s. The 90s are big again. It's a trend, at least in America. Anything 90s is popping right now. And if we don't recognize that and capitalize on that, and again, make it appealing to families, fitness skaters, kids, just to give rollerblading another look, we're getting viewed right now by eyeballs that haven't seen us in decades. And those eyeballs got money, and those eyeballs got kids, and they want something positive and physical to do with their family. So I don't think it's an accident that we're seeing our best sales years ever in a congruent timeline with the fact that people from outside of blading are looking in, that haven't given us a look in a long, long time. And even if it is cruising down on 3 big wheel skates on the bike trail, it's still rollerblading. If it's a kid who wants to go to the roller rink because they got invited to a party, it's still rollerblading. So if we can keep them not necessarily entranced, but active and involved, and all the guys up here have like huge hearts and are active in rollerblading. And I've always said the best thing you can do for rollerblading is to simply participate. So if you're skating, I'm skating, you're skating a couple days a week, people are getting positive skating experiences, and that goes out like a pebble dropped in a pond, the butterfly effect. So yeah, it's not an accident, it's hard earned. The success is absolutely valid, and we have every opportunity in our local scenes, wherever we are in the world, to keep them active on blades and sustain the growth and even look for more ways to get more people on blades.
Do you want to? Yeah, basically, I think you
No,
guys.
but okay, one thing. Do we talk about rollerblading in general, or we talk about blading?
Well, that's what I was going to say,
there are
because
two different things, right?
all the majority of the shops that have died are the shops that were stubborn and basically refused to stock anything other than aggressive skates. They were hardcore loyal to that exact form, and by not diversifying and not trying to tap into the fitness and the recreational market, it killed them. And it feels like you guys learned from other retailers' mistakes, like what to do, how not to alienate audiences, and as a result, that is probably what has helped you guys to outlast all of your competitors.
Yeah, but like one thing, rollerblading or blading, because if we talk about blading, it was one of the best years, but it wasn't the best year for us. It wasn't the best year in general since we exist, because we used to have better days in blading back in the day, you know, when there was like 10 years ago or 15 years ago when we started, for sure we sell more aggressive skates than we sell now. So that's the something I just want to specify. Like if we talk about rollerblading in general, because I feel you guys are talking as a rollerblading in general, right?
Well, it's just because your marketing was so good right at the beginning. And it took us 15 years to get to the point where you did it in a year.
Everyone does know green is better, so.
He just changed his bag color to red. Say no more.
I don't know what you're saying. I don't know. Because, you know, long time ago, like 15 years ago, right? How many pairs brands were producing? And how many pairs they produce right now? You guys know, right? Yeah, but there's way more shops that walk down, right? Yeah, sure. But back then, we used to sell more aggressive skates than we sell now. That's that. As an industry of blading, aggressive rollerblading, like you said, how you say it?
Aggressive inline skating?
Aggressive inline skating, yeah.
Very clear.
Sounds nice.
So that people in the audience, like I said, this is kind of like drawn into things that happen online, where people come to conclusions or guesses about how much of each model is produced. Can you give us a ballpark of what the major brands are producing in terms of each skate?
I'm not producing skates, so I cannot say nothing about it.
It's 500.
Okay.
It's 500 sets of skates.
That was
And
very.
if it's a slightly more popular model, if it's a USD Aeon, it might be 750, sometimes 1,000.
When I remember when there was a Stefan Horngacher promo, do you remember? The guy, German guy.
We do.
Austrian guy.
The black and white skate with the horns on the back. Yeah.
It was 5,000 produced. So now you see what we are talking about?
Good point.
Yeah, but that's because Razors had to give like 2,000 to all their flow riders. That's going to eat into a chunk straight away.
It's also important to consider too, like an Aeon will get remade. So it may be a batch of black, a batch of white, a batch of Eisler. So there may be 4 Aeons on the market at any given time in the 60 millimeter range. So that's 2,000 pairs right there for one season. And then come Christmas, they're going to do it again. So, and some batches are small and limited, like Frankie and God skates. Some batches come out once every 2 years, like Kato and Rems. And then there's others that are on the market in perpetuity with multiple levels. Razors has 4 models at all times. Rossi's now has 2 models at all times. Some of those price point skates are made 2 or 3 times a year in greater numbers than signature skates, which are harder to come by now. But at the same time, what we've experienced, and I don't know if you guys have, we'll sell through a skate, popular sizes 8 through 11, we'll turn around and go back to the distributor, they're wiped out as well. We can't get any more skates. So it's not just that shops are getting hit, it's that distributors are getting cleaned out as well. And so now the impetus is to sustain this growth. We can't tell people, oh, they're gonna make a new skate in 4 months. We're selling more skates. Distributors gotta ante up and have more for us to reorder. Because you can't tell somebody to come back in 2 weeks, they're gone. You gotta be able to say, okay, I can get more in 2 days from Razors, or I've got some in the back. So if we're selling more, we're busting our asses, the distributors have to be aware of that. And they have to see, hey, we gotta man up, because otherwise they're sinking their own ship. You know what I'm saying?
And how is the communication there between the shop and the distributor
Oh,
and the brand?
it's personal and it's vibrant and it's basically like,
so that you can basically
we can't
say to
get
them,
more, we need more skates.
yeah, give us more stuff.
Razors doesn't have more. You need to up the order on your next batch and let's go. It hasn't happened just once. Yeah.
That is actually a problem, isn't it? Because I guess we're at a midpoint, right? So if the brands think that they can sell 750 pairs of skates, right? But they have to produce skates in batches of 500, right? They need to commit to 1,000. Because right now we're trying to get hold of these skates and they're running out, like you say. So actually, yeah, you've got a really good point. I think the brands need to man up.
As in, you think they should take more of like a gamble on their asset?
Yeah,
and
put the cash in, put the cash flow in, and we'll sell it.
Okay. So you've said about the things that you believe are selling. As skate shops, I think many people would want to know, what is the hardest thing to sell? Now, you don't have to like obviously call out brands, but I mean, as in, what are the things that just stay on your shelves for months, years on end that you just cannot get rid of? Like things that you've basically decided, we're not buying that in anymore. It's killing us.
I don't have a good answer. We are really good with our ordering.
Jake's like, I sell the shit out of everything I have.
We are also very good in ordering, so and pre-orders and all this. So we always sell everything what we have. Sometimes we order too much, so we have to get rid of it later. But back to your point, like distribution and stuff. So maybe is there a place for distributor right now? If there's a producer and there's a shop, why we need the distributors, right? Like you know. Exactly.
Yeah, in US we're kind of like an island.
Big island. Hey, come on.
Baby, bring the tea and your wheels. But the point is the numbers. Like Jake said, if they can do 500, we're gonna need 750. We've got the real estate, and it doesn't hurt us to have an extra 5 pairs on hand, as opposed to telling people we're sold out in sizes 8 through 11 in price point skates, and you got to come back in 2 months, fingers crossed. They're like, yo, we're out of here.
I think, as you've seen in my ISPO video, I'm always pushing the brands.
I'm going to stalk you. Now that I've been doing Jake for years now with his YouTube videos, I'm still going to get back at you for those step-on grinds but now that Evo's doing it, I'm picking on Evo just as much because it's a sport and I'm good at it. So
your question was like, what is the relationship with distribution, right? Or like, what's the hardest?
Yeah,
thing?
what's the toughest thing for a shop to basically get rid of?
Well,
I don't mean in terms of numbers because that's obviously just sensible ordering. I mean in terms of like which like actual products are just hard to get rid of, because you notice that most skate shops now tend to sell very little in the way of like clothing items, for example, because clothing is, you can get stuck with really random odd sizes that you just like.
True.
That's my answer, and you stole it.
But it's also the way you set up your shop. Yeah. So my shop is basically like a boutique at the front, and then the hardware's in the back. And I think that's something that we should go towards as an industry. Like, why are brands not selling soft goods. It's because the shops basically look like one hard good, like nightmare. Like you're not gonna like if I wouldn't skate, I would definitely not walk into like your run-of-the-mill inline skate store, and think like, oh, like let's see what's in there. No, you see that horrible wall of flashy colors, and you're like gonna walk straight past. But so my goal for the shop is to have like we have like one wall of bags, we have a wall of caps, we have multiple clothing racks in the center of the store, and we even sell shoes of an inline skate brand, Fila, yeah. So random people walk in our store, and they buy clothing. So it's all of the way, and you set up the shop actually, and just look at if you look at like how other sports do this. If you look at like a skateboard web shop, it's like shoes, clothing, caps, boards. Our inline skate web shops are always
the problem. The problem with your argument there is that's the whole reason why skateboarding has actually managed to stay alive despite these bobs and trends in the industry, because they can market themselves as streetwear.
Yeah,
if you go on
exactly.
like Route 1 or any of these shops, it's all the new shoe drops, it's all the new clothing drops. So that's not applicable to the inline mold, because that's one of the things we can't capitalize on, like deals with Nike or Adidas or Puma, because you don't need shoes to skate, and you can't advertise shoes while you skate.
Yeah, that's the shit. But you can have nice T-shirts. Yeah, you can at least have clothing racks in your store to sell them with. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, but
Thing.
You have to talk into the microphone, otherwise no one's going to hear
Okay, you measured everything in your shop, so you know when I go to your website, I know exactly if it's going to fit me or not. So I never buy something I want to return because it fits. Because that's the extra service you give.
If we want to sell more clothing, then we should focus more on clothing.
yeah, but we also should have more companies doing clothing. But I'm talking about.
Like if we as shops don't facilitate it, it's not gonna work. Because like
Like if we have a nice clothing from brands,
yeah,
if they can, supply us with a good brand, with a good product, like not like T-shirts. Sometimes we buy and we pay like we have to sell T-shirts for 30 euro, which are how you can sell them for this price if you have H&M for 10 euro or you go to skateboard shop and you have a nice T-shirt for 20 euro, right?
The argument with that is skateboard brands can get away with that because skateboarding is universally blended with lifestyle and streetwear. So people that don't skateboard buy skateboard clothing. People that don't rollerblade do not buy rollerblade clothing. In fact, a lot of people who rollerblade don't buy rollerblading clothing.
Because there is no rollerblading clothes.
Because people didn't buy them.
Okay, so hey.
That's why they died, because people didn't buy them.
Hey, we used to sell a lot of clothes. We used to be a lot of companies from America. Come on, there was 1 year or 2 years. There was like we were laughing. There's like a T-shirts company popping up like every month. Like, come on, we were selling it. It was selling, and what happened? Where are these companies? What's going on?
A lot of them were
I'm just
really
the
bad companies.
Hey, we are a shop. We are a shop. Give us good product, we sell it. Give us good price. Give us good terms. We start doing it. But come on.
Okay.
I'd just like to say that I prefer to focus on hardware.
Good, because we're just about to move on from this
Yeah.
because we're getting bogged down. As people with physical locations, when you've got overheads and stuff like that, like bills, like insurance, employees, like utilities and things like that, to give people a sense of what it takes to keep these places open and keep the lights on, how much do you need to sell on an average week or on an average month in terms of I don't need to know exact numbers, but in terms of like a general idea of like skates, for example, how many would you need? Because you've obviously got various employees now, and you've got a bigger premises.
It's about variable overheads. So it's a more complex question than how many you need, because the more you sell, the more it costs to sell them. But
so if
in a
that is
business
the case,
term,
break it down in a sense that we can all understand.
We need to sell 450 pairs of skates a month.
How many locations do you have?
One.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your square footage or your size?
4,000 square foot.
But
But 4 staff,
you do
5 staff.
You do distribution within
Lots
the
of
shop as
tax.
well, yeah? Like
We don't distribute, no.
not at all. So like you get them all from all the product you
Well,
stock
we're
in the
based in
shop,
the
you
south
get
of
from
England. It's
distributors.
very expensive, and the VAT is a killer. The corporation tax is a killer. Those things they're really boring for this talk, but I mean, you get to the end of a period and it's like, wow, you just took all my money back. It's very difficult to, to break it. We break even. pretty
Okay.
much.
Sorry, Matt, I'm about to alienate you from this next question because it can only really apply to like European retailers. We've obviously got Brexit going on right now, which is going to have the biggest impact on the UK, although we don't actually know yet. We didn't want to leave. We didn't want to. Scotland voted overwhelmingly to stay, so blame old Tories. Old Tories and racists are to blame, so fuck them. Moving onwards. What kind of impact do you predict, or do you predict any impact to happen as a result of Brexit? Because I remember when the initial referendum result was placed and we got the voting figures. Sorry, Jake, I'm looking at you. The very next day when our currency crashed, you instantly put a sale up on Loco, calling it like the Brexit sale, and saying the pound is now weak, in a weak point concern.
We're trying to find positives out of it, and we're trying to find ways in order to use Brexit to our advantage. So that would have been one of them. The pound crashed. It was cheaper to order from Europe from us at that stage. So yeah, why not talk about that?
Capitalize on the misery.
I mean, it's the worst. I mean, yeah. We shouldn't be putting up walls, should we, at this time? But in terms of industry stuff, I guess it hasn't really happened yet, Brexit. It won't happen until the 31st of December 2020, officially. Everything that just happened is just like a farce. It's like everything stays the same, and then they pass all these new laws, and that will come in later in the year. But there'll be the stuff that we don't know about yet, so we can't actually answer that question. But there'll be stuff to do with VAT and import duty and import tax, and it will change, and we'll find a way to make that work to our advantage. But we have been, for the last 6 months, putting in a new checkout which will combat that. So our new checkout will allow us to separate tax at the point of sale and say, hey, do you want to pay tax now before it comes in, or do you want to pay it later? And we'll adjust our prices to accommodate for the fact that so if that tax turns out to be more expensive for a customer, then we will accommodate for that, and the price will, we'll bring the price down so that it doesn't. Brexit does not make it more expensive for a European customer to order from us.
Okay, so
You
it's just a
set it
matter
off,
of
you pad it out in the exchange rate. It's quite complex.
adapting to the situation. Let's get away from boring stuff like that and talk about some juicy stuff. As shop owners, what is the most common misconception, whether it's online or physical? What is the most common misconception that people have about you, or the most frequent question or query that you get that you have to just deal with all the time? Because Jake recently went online discussing one where it's for people asked to sponsor events. Now, if you sponsored every event that someone asked you to sponsor, you wouldn't have a shop. So what other kind of misconceptions or queries do people come at you with that is something that you have to deal with on a frequent basis?
In California, or America, I guess, people are still shocked to see that there is a physical shop just based off of inline skates. So you're still getting out of the state of non-existence, as they would say in marketing, to where there's still a large portion of the population that aren't aware that rollerblading shops exist. They think they just show up at yard sales or you get them at a roller rink. And for people as wide-eyed as you are to walk into my shop after being in business for 19 plus years and say, this is my first time in a skate shop, it makes you feel important, like, yo, physical shops do have traction, and I think our retail footprint is gonna only increase in value over time. Boom, so hold on, keep on what you guys are doing. And number two, that we still got a lot of work to do. So A, we're there, we're reaching more people, but B, there's still tons of people out there that don't know who we are and are walking into a skate shop for the first time. So we gotta remain where we are. We gotta keep doing what we're doing, and we gotta reach for growth. We gotta get to more places. We gotta get rollerblading around a larger physical population so more people can try on skates and figure out what fits and skate out the damn door instead of rolling the dice with an online order. But yeah, people are still shocked, like, whoa, there's an inline skate shop? You guys are just all rollerblades?
I think people are still shocked that there's still rollerblades, because whenever someone says, what do you do for fun? And I'm like, rollerblading, they're like, you always have to explain to them what it is. It's never as simple as, which is why I find it really interesting when people get hung up on the terminology that we use, whether it's blading, inline skating, rollerblading. It doesn't matter, because no matter what title you give that sport, you're still going to have to secondary explain what it is, because no one is going to instantly know what you're talking about. Even if you go like aggressive inline, they're like, go on.
Just like, we have a blank slate, that's what you're saying. That doesn't
That is what I'm
mean
saying,
that
and
it doesn't matter how we fill it in. That means that we have a unique shot at deciding with all of us how we fill it in. And it makes it even more important that we get in one line with this naming structure.
I don't think the name's that is like,
Yes, it does
pivotal.
matter.
I wouldn't say so.
Yes,
And
it does matter.
I would say
Matters
if you,
a lot how
I'd
we
say
call
if you
it.
ask,
It matters if somebody calls it this and the other calls it that. It matters like for everything, for online SEO, for just like us being coherent as a culture. It matters. It matters for everything.
That's a very good point, Ivo, because how we should call each other. Blading, freestyle rolling, or how you call it, inline, aggressive inline skating. I think that's also the problem.
To answer your question, like depends on the context. So just like there's so many other sports like quad skating, ice skating, and they all have like different segments. So you have like park quad skating, speed quad skating, derby quad skating. You have ice skating, you have speed ice skating, hockey ice skating, figure ice skating, and they all have the same naming structure and they all have the same naming problems, but they all have the same different context in which they call it themselves different names. So towards each other, they will always call all these sports call like, hey, let's go skating. All these types of skaters. But the matter of the context, they say ice, or they say quad, or you should say inline. Or the matter of the sub-segment, if it's clear or not, like, I don't need to say to you that I'm an aggressive inline skater. I'm just, let's go skate. But just the same as ice skaters would not say, like, hey, let's go figure ice skating. It's just like all these other sports having exactly the same naming structure and the same naming problems. It's just us that are like deterrent from it, because of like, oh yeah, but then they think like I'm a skateboarder. But just like that, we are the only ones of all the types of skaters that have this problem. And we shouldn't. We shouldn't. We should own it.
I
We should
don't
own
think
it.
it's
We
that
should
thing
own
that
the word that
cripples
we
us.
have. It's
I
easy as
genuinely
that.
don't believe if we had a single naming structure, it would make that much of a difference. Even if every single person in here said, I am an inline skater, it wouldn't. It doesn't. I wouldn't say that it would change the landscape.
Everybody would say they're a skater, but depending on the context, you would say inline or aggressive if that's the part that's not clear.
Yeah, that's not clear, definitely. I agree.
I'm 37 years old. At no point in any conversation am I ever saying that I'm an aggressive inline skater, because it would make me feel like a fucking dork, and I already look like one. So I'd go, I'm a blader, and they go, why? And I'm like, because I wear rollerblades.
But just before you said it didn't matter how you would call it.
For how long you are using blader? For how long? No, not forever.
Upwards
no,
of
no.
The
It starts
better
like
part of
5
a
years
decade.
ago. When it starts? 5, 6 years ago.
Well, that's not true, because in Barely Dead, John Julio was referring to rollerblading as blading, and that came out, what,
When?
13 years ago?
Barely Dead? No.
So over 15 years ago. 15 years ago. That's over a decade.
Okay.
So the guys at the top of the sport have been referring to it as blading from then and possibly even beforehand. You can shake your head; it's in the video. Like you can disagree. all
Hey,
you
maybe
want.
we are getting bogged down with this naming thing.
Let's move on to something else. Now online, obviously, like you've got marketplaces like eBay and stuff like that, but in the States, you guys have got Blade Trade, and in Europe, we've got things like European Blade Trade and UK Buy and Sell. How much of an impact does that have on the shops, or does it have any impact on the shops?
I don't take too much notice of it, but I think it's a good thing because if people are selling their blades, then they're going to get money to buy new blades. And it's all just about a continuation of people being into it. And maybe someone who can't afford new blades can buy new blades on Blade Trade, and then they'll get into it, and later they'll buy some wheels from us, they'll buy some liners, maybe they'll even buy skates. So yeah, it's only a good thing.
Anyone else want to weigh in on that? No? And what about people's like thoughts and brands that are dead, but people still buy their products and use them? So things like Salomon.
The Solomon argument has exactly the same answer, and I know a lot of people said this when Ricardo said it, but yeah, the people that buy Solomons, they all come to us and buy wheels, frames,
Wheels, sole plates, bearings. Yeah.
liners, and then when they realize that Solomons aren't as good as everyone says, they get a set of Aeons.
I think the second-hand market is a crucial entry point for a lot of people. Like Jake had said, sometimes people can't pony up $180 for brand new skates, but the interest is there. And so as long as it's from a legit source, we do sell skates. We have a used skate section. So you
So
can
do you
buy
guys,
used,
right? You guys have got
used
used
skates from a
Evo.
reputable dealer. And we also sell skates on eBay. And when we sell skates on eBay, it comes under just a personal, selling point. And then we throw a catalog and stickers and posters in there. Used skates, we refurbish them and put new parts and replace them and bring them back up to standards so that when they get used skates, they're ready to skate right out of the box. And also, like Jake said, great point, they're not selling skates to get out of the game. They're selling skates to re-up. And a lot of times, I would say at least half the time, they're getting skates. They're selling skates cheaper to get someone on a pair to get them a new pair.
Like the Facebook group is not really a new thing. Facebook's been around for a while, but before that we had forums. We had online we had the BMAG forum. And what's happening?
Sorry, just time check.
Okay, cool.
Continue that thought. Sorry.
Yeah, so you have I don't know, as long as I remember, you had online forums. So and there was always a skating trade section on it. So I don't know any difference. So I don't see it have any effect on the current state or anything. But regarding vintage skates, we do have a rack in front of the store that we pull out of the store every day. That's sitting on the street with vintage skates that you can buy for 20 euros, and they're all donated skates to us. So yeah, that's a way for us to introduce people to the sport. And then every time they buy skates, we give them a free lesson with it, so they actually know how to brake with them. And we have a monthly group lesson, so it doesn't cost me any extra time because I have people paying for that same lesson. It just adds one person kind of to it. So yeah, and then it offers me the chance to see them a second time, and then they kind of feel they're more related to the shop. You talk to them a bit more, and then maybe they have a kid and they do a birthday party, a skating birthday party or something. So it's for us, it's also a segue for our shop to get people in it.
Okay. One more question, and then we'll see if anyone in the audience wants to ask anything. No? We're going to wrap it up. Oh, we've got more questions. Will we just go straight to audience questions? Get through it? Let's do it. Who wants to go first?
Hi. So how do you, as shop owners, how do you go about promoting the sport and making sure that your customers stay in the game and they perhaps get other people to come in there? I mean, I know that Ivo, as he said, he gives the free lessons and he spends a lot of time when you come into the shop helping you to pick the correct skate. Because 25 years ago, I bought my first pair of inliners, and it took me about a week to decide that I hated that. And now, 20 years later, I love it because I got the proper skates for me. And he puts me in contact with other people who skate, who are around my age, who also have kids, who then started skating as well. So I come back to the shop, and I promote his shop. I promote the concept of skating to friends and friends who have kids. So how do you go about doing that?
I think, well, for us, I would take a different way. Maybe we're super family friendly, just like Evo would be. But I think we're all trying to maintain a level of quality, and I know because Evo talks about this stuff to do with the naming of it, and he's really passionate about that. And I see where that comes from, because he wants the right idea about skating to be put across. You know, that's where whether you agree with it or not. And I think, in answer to your question, I think what I would like to do is make skating look cool. You know, if that would be our number one thing, would be like, make it look cool. Like because skateboarding is popular because it's rebellious. Young people are doing it, cool people are doing it. It's on the MTV. I mean, that's not cool MTV, but do you know what I mean? It's like, try and like have a level of quality control where you don't post anything that's shitty, don't post anything that's half-ass. Try and like have good quality everything, and that includes skating and your riders, and don't half-ass anything.
You mean basically just showcase like the best example of what we have to offer?
Yeah, that's what Jake said.
We're accessible to everyone, and we're friendly, and obviously you do want to be all those things, but like Alex Brosco is really popular in blading because Alex is fucking cool. You know, his skating looks amazing. It's cool. Like he's just like, I don't know. He's keeping it real. So it sounds cheesy, but
Buzzword.
yeah. And I think that you want to just, as a shop, you could like easily like slightly go cheesy, couldn't you? Because like it's retail, like come and buy from us, and isn't it bright and happy and funny and all these things that all these shops, you know, if you look at advertising generally in the world, it's stupid, it's cheesy, it's rubbish. Like in blading, we have the luxury of being able to go, yeah, we're gonna just fucking do it properly and be cool and not have to get ourselves involved in all that other bullshit in retail in the world.
Okay.
You know?
Marek, you're about to say something?
Yeah, I agree with Jake, but I also agree with Ivo, and that's exactly what we are doing more. We are also giving a free lesson to every pair of skates we sell, and that's the most. I think that the thing right now is working with a new generation, with kids. We need more people, so the shop should generate like an inside circle, like a Wednesday night session, or night skating, or all this kind of stuff, which you can. Grow the local scene, because when the local scene is growing, then you can go a little bit more.
Right, we've got a couple more questions.
Hey, nowadays the way of shopping changed a lot. It's more about online. What do you think about Amazon, eBay? Would you use it for selling, or
So I don't mean to. I've got an opinion on that. I'll pass over to Matt quickly afterwards. I don't think I think me and Mirek had this conversation last year in one of these panels about Facebook, actually. But I don't believe in marketplace websites. I think marketplace websites are poisonous, so Amazon and eBay, because their business model is designed to trick the seller, the marketplace seller, i.e. the shop that's selling through Amazon, to sell for very low margin, because people haven't done their sums properly, they haven't done their VAT sums properly, and if you speak to an Amazon seller, I bet they don't really know how much money they make through Amazon. I bet they haven't done their maths properly. And also, why should we use Amazon or eBay or Etsy or not on the high street, or all those, obviously not in skating, we don't use those sellers, but in retail in general, they're stealing from those industries. Get rid of those marketplace sellers and just do your own. My website's quite good, so you don't need to go to Amazon.
Yes. I agree, but we are just a shop. It's a question. A question you ask is a more question for brands. For brands like USD, like Rollerblade, like what's their strategy? If they should support us, shops, or they should support the marketplaces you said. So, like that's the answer, right? Because for us, it's of course it's better to sell on our webpage and all this, but the question you ask is more for brands. That's what I think, because we we don't have that much space to make money that we can also share with Amazon and other big guys. I don't know. That's what I think.
Okay, couple more.
Hold on. Yeah, I just want to chime in real quick, and then I'll pass the mic to Ivo. I think it's you obviously have to be aware as a retailer that Amazon exists, but because we're a niche industry, I think that customer service and brick and mortar is only going to appreciate in value. And the people that get their first pair of skates off Amazon might not be getting the best skates, but they'll be interested, and it's our job to proliferate throughout the market. The media, just to be out there and let them know that, yeah, you got skates, but there's a rad scene too, and there's legit shops, and we care what size you get. We want you to be comfortable. We can help you build custom skates. We'll handle returns. Our opinion matters because we're experienced. We share the love as well. So if they're getting their first pair of skates on eBay and then they come to find us, rad. But it's up to us to make sure that those people that do get their first pair of skates from like an outside source are exposed to rollerblading as we see it, inline skating as we see it. And so that's the real challenge, is to maintain our square footage and hold down our retail footprint with the bigger ways that people can get skates out there. So I think we have more to offer in the long run, and it's not a bad thing that people get their first pair of skates off Amazon, but it's not our place. We don't belong there. We can never compete with them. In that sense, we still have more power because of the passion that we put out there in everything that we do, whether it be content, the retail experience, or just by remaining active on blades ourselves. There's power in that.
Thanks. So if you break it down, like what we're doing as a shop, if you break it down, like I didn't like want to sell skates when I was a kid. I want to add value to this sport. That was my goal. That's why I started This Is All Skate Shop, to add value to the sport. And if I would like use another retailer like Amazon, they're not gonna like I'm not gonna add value in that way. Like we make sure that if you go to the This Is All website, you have the best tools to compare different products, to compare like all skates in the like with the filter, the way the website works with the filter and the information, like the text and the links to our vlogs that we make about all the categories. So that's how we try to like make the best service, and that service would just be like entirely be cut off by Amazon, and would be just regarding the product. And that's like, sorry, that's not what I'm actually doing. That's not my job as I look at it. My job's not selling skate. My job is like to inform customers so that they can make a better choice buying skates. So, all right.
Hi. Okay, a couple more. Good. Hi there. My English is bad. Okay. So, like, I want to have your opinion from you. I found this discussion about naming and presenting rollerblading in a cool way. I found this really interesting. When we compare it to snowboarding or skateboarding, there is another part of it which we don't have, and this is like the deck or the snowboard, where they can present graphics. So they have a unique style. And I think before it can look cool, they have the brands, they have the illustrators, they have the advertising and everything, and this is something we don't have, I think. Maybe nowadays. Back in the days, maybe we have different styles from different brands, like Senate and Medium, you know, this was like Toy Machine and, yeah, you know everything. But do you see, or do you wish for something like that in order that you can sell more in your shops, like, you know, clothing brands or something more like this?
Like any other like industries that you wanna like compare us to, and like if they have something on us, because that's why you're comparing us to them, and you're like, how can we get that? That always starts with them having a strong culture. and then growing from there. So it would be like a really bad way to like just like skip that culture part and then to like jump to the like, oh, we need the industry, we need the brands, we need the. We need to focus on growing our culture. And even if you're talking about numbers, I couldn't care less about numbers, like actual people skating. If it doubles, let me say it like this: I would rather have the people skating now to represent skating twice as hard as they're doing, like the current amount of people representing twice as hard, than that we have twice as many people representing, well, just as we are right now. So that would be my main goal. And if we start with that, then I think like all that other stuff will come next. So.
Next question.
Right, we need to wrap it up, so we'll have one last question, and then that's us done.
Hi, how as an individual could I help to represent skating? I'm not cool enough to, or good enough to show it off to other people, and I'm always being laughed at by skateboarders, but what can I do to make sure that smaller kids or just people my age also skate?
Have fun.
Part of being a rollerblader is being an individual, and we are all individuals here grouped together. So for sure have fun, and either way, if people are giving you a heck for it, just let it drop off your shoulders. And number two, you can know that you're absolutely not alone. There's somebody else in another city who is skating alone, and they might not even have a skate park. But the power of social media to find groups or people to skate with, and number two, the fact that as a rollerblader, even if you are skating, quote unquote, by yourself, you're not alone. There's other bladers out there that are doing it just as hard. And as long as you know inside your heart that you're doing it for fun, all that other stuff doesn't matter. And some days are hard. Some days you do get heckled at or yelled at, or you get called, oh my God, look at that guy. It's the last rollerblader on earth. And you know what? I laugh at that because he knows that I'm a rollerblader. So boom, I got his attention. He probably felt rad about cutting me down, but I got a laugh out of it. So keep smiling, keep the wheel spinning, and know that you're not alone.
And one thing, just make sure you support brands which support riders. Like, so, you know, make sure the brand you support riders as well, because that's how it's going. Because if we support riders and they are happy, they have, let's say it's their full-time job as a rider. So if they can make a living out of it, that makes sense. Because then we know that they put all the energy into this. So that's the simple thing.
So basically you're saying like be a more responsible consumer, like pay more attention to the brands that you're supporting, because you want to make sure you're supporting companies that actually keep their riders or their pros or whatever going. Or just contributing to the culture in a
Yeah, we
broader
focus
sense.
a lot on riders when we talk about supporting the industry, but just any shop that's putting money back into stock. And rollerblading stock, not skis, you know. Yeah, so there's primarily a rollerblading shop. That's what I would say. Support primarily rollerblading shops.
Okay. Anyone get anything else to say before we wrap it up?
Okay.
If you as an individual want to help with the sport, that was kind of like the question. So it's not, I'm talking to you, Sam, but also like any other individual, a good way is like have fun and promote the sport, the brands that do good for the sport, of course. What's also a good way is to be there in the skate park, but be there like regularly. So like, if like I don't know, like Sunday mornings are your thing, just like be there every Sunday morning, and then you'll start off maybe by yourself, but at one point you'll meet somebody else, and then you can say like, hey, I'm here next Sunday at this time, and then you start then you've been doing that for the good. Well, Keep pushing.
Next time,
just have fun.
next
And then
time,
have fun.
try
Like,
and bring a
get back to
friend
Jake.
out.
Have
Bring a
fun.
friend out.
Have
We
fun.
we have run way over time, so we're
And
gonna
keep
give
coming
Matt.
out. And keep coming out to events. Any last
Really
questions?
sorry, guys. We've run way over time. We've got another panel going straight afterwards. Right, well, you're getting one question, or a statement, or whatever.
It's not a question. I'm a business owner myself, and it's not a question. I just basically wanted to say thank you. I admire all you guys. So I'm in business, and I know overheads kills businesses. So you guys, honestly, absolute legends for what you're doing. I appreciate every product you stock. I have bought off every single one of you in the past, and I will continue to do so. So please keep doing what you're doing, and I admire you very much.
Thank you.
Right, guys, that's all we've got time for in this panel. If you want to stick around, we're going to do the retired pro panel next. Sorry, man, we're definitely way over time. So, if you want to stick around, we're doing.
We're gonna take a group photo.
Oh,
Mirik, Jake, Evo. Hold the phone, you guys.
right, guys, if you want to see the next panel with Chaz Sands, Brian Aragon, Jenna Downing, and Fabiola da Silva, stick around. We're going to do that next.